Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Shabbat shalom. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la, yai la, yai la 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 la. Yai la, yai la, yai la 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 la. Come on, you know this one now. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la, yai la, yai la 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 la. Yai la, yai la, yai la 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 la. One more time, faster. Ready? Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la, yai la, yai la 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 la. Yai la, yai la, yai la 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 la. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. 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 How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. How good it is, how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam lahadlik asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Thank you, Sally. Shabbat shalom, everybody. It's so nice to see you this evening. Let's take a moment to turn to the people sitting around us, wish each other Shabbat shalom. Try to say hi to someone that you don't know if you can. Shabbat shalom all. The last 7 months since October 7th have been extraordinarily difficult for the Jewish community, both in Israel and here in America. It's clear that something deeply disturbing is happening on some of America's most prestigious college campuses. There is a high degree of rage and hostility being directed not only toward the state of Israel, but also toward individual Jewish students, for no reason other than that they are Jews. To be a Zionist, meaning to believe that the Jewish people have the right to national self-determination in our ancient homeland, is, in the eyes of the protesters, a cardinal sin. And too many college students, whether they loudly proclaim Zionism or simply imply it by the fact that they appear outwardly Jewish, are being subjected to public scorn and intimidation. Beyond the surface of all we are seeing play out on television, what's happening on these college campuses taps into the Jewish community's collective memory of trauma. To quote one of my rabbinic colleagues, it feels like we are preparing for the past. There is no question that in an environment like this, there's a lot of clickbait out there, and it's hard to know what's accurate and what's not. Such is the nature of our world today. But there is so much. And when you add it all up, you get this sense that we've been here before. Stories like campus protesters barricade Jewish students' path on college campuses, and Jewish professor denied entry to campus, and Jewish administrator reprimanded for taking video of student protest. I can imagine all these happening in Germany in the early 1930s. Maybe it's paranoid to think that, or maybe it's not. But I think we have to take it very seriously. Our guest speaker tonight is known to many of us in this community. Sahar Tartak graduated as the valedictorian of Great Neck North High School in 2022, and she's currently a sophomore at Yale University, just finishing up, I guess. I met Sahar last year at an event at a congregant's home, and I found her to be thoughtful, intelligent, and insightful. When a couple weeks ago I read her compelling firsthand account of her encounters with anti-Israel protesters at Yale, I reached out to her and invited her to share her story with our congregation. From what I can tell from Sahar's piece and the accompanying videos, it was quite a tense encounter in a very tense moment on the Yale campus. I'm sure everyone involved has their own interpretation of what happened that night. I, for one, can't imagine how I would have reacted to experiencing all this as a college student, or how I would have spoken about it to others. So I want to thank Sahar for coming here to share her insights. To be sure, this is one person's story, but in my view, it's a story that's important to the moment that we American Jews are living through right now. And I believe we have a duty to bear witness to it. That's why I invited Sahar here tonight. And I want to ask you all to join me in welcoming her to Temple Beth-El.
Wow, thank you so much. That was so undeservedly kind. Can everybody hear me? No, can't hear me. How about now? Yeah, microphone distance. So as Rabbi just shared, my name's Sahar Tartak. I'm a sophomore at Yale, and I've been on the front lines of the sort of stories that maybe you've heard third-hand, first-hand, second-hand, online, among people just chatting about kind of what's going on college campuses. Yale has been a pretty bad place with regards to anti-Semitism on campus. I can share many a story about, which of course culminate in me being assaulted, but there's a lot of things that happened before that are pretty pernicious. But I think before I give you that overview, I want to preface this by saying that in the sense that these people that are on my campus and on my friends' campuses and are kind of intimidating us and engaging in what we can call a turf war, to the extent that they're scary, I also want us to not take them too seriously. As in, don't let them get in the way of you having meaningful prayer over Shabbat, or learning Torah with your friends. Here's why. We had one of these tent encampments against Israel on Yale's campus. It was right in the middle of the quad. And what goes on at these encampments? Like, very scary things, for sure. Pictures of terrorists, the students drop off flowers, and calls for an Arab Palestine from the river to the sea. This is no secret. But do you know what they're doing most of the time? I saw this, and Mom saw this too. She can attest. She visited Yale. They're playing fetch on the quad and making origami on the tent encampment. Which is to say, they're not so serious either. They're really scary. But I don't think they compete with something like what we have going on right now. And I think there's a lot of light ahead. But it's worth knowing kind of what's going wrong on campus and where things are rotting. So maybe we can start around October 7th, where right after October 7th, on Yale's campus and on many others, I saw masses of students, we're talking hundreds of people, immediately after, before Israel retaliated, collecting in large rallies, shouting things such as, when people are occupied, resistance is justified, or globalize the Intifada, or love for Gaza was written in chalk all over the school. But the most intense comment or statement that was made at Yale was made by a registered student group called Yaleys for Palestine, and they said that we should celebrate the resistance's success. And this is not unique to my campus. So everything I'm sharing with you, if it's unique to my campus, I'll say this has only happened at Yale. But the reason this will be easy is because none of it is unique to my campus. I am in touch with students on most of the other major, maybe top 50 college campuses in the country. So the ones that you'd possibly hear about in the news, and the ones that you'd send your kids to from Great Neck Public Schools. This is a pattern, and the reason it's a pattern is because they're organized from the top down, right? So somehow somebody is telling all of the anti-Israel protesters what to do, and they're doing the exact same things. So one thing I noticed was that the tents at Yale, the physical tents at the tent encampments, were the same exact type of tents at all the other campuses. So what's unique to Yale is that they had origami, but don't worry, because at Cornell they had an acupuncturist at their tent encampment. I'm not kidding. So that's unique, but what's consistent is the tents and the slogans. So we'll start around October 7th. We have this kind of mass protest that calls to justify October 7th, to celebrate October 7th, and I, as a student that has some serious writing practice, largely thanks to Great Neck Public Schools, was quick to write an article calling the students making these comments a hate group. So I wrote this article in the Yale Daily News, which is our big campus paper, saying Yaleys for Palestine is a hate group. And that was a really unpopular article. So that's lesson one, is that you should be able to write, and that a lot of people are going to get really upset at it. But I would say that it stirred controversy and conversation on campus in a way that a lot of other pieces haven't done. And so for the rest of the semester, that was sort of my practice, is something nuts would happen on campus. This happens all the time. I have fast and serious writing skills, and I would write about it and put it in the public, because that's the method of accountability that happens on a college campus. Because who would you normally turn to accountability rather than the media? You would turn to administrators. But administrators on our college campuses are also not taking this seriously. So starting on October 7th, students began to push the envelope. Anti-Israel students began to push the envelope, right? Calling for an intifada and receiving no condemnation from the administration. Not even a shutdown, just admin saying guys, what are you doing? You're college students. You should be more sophisticated than to call for an intifada, and we know what that is. None of that. So administration doesn't speak out, and administration lets the students kind of push the envelope in other ways. So what's another good example is that I and a couple of other Jewish friends were barred from an anti-Israel, supposedly academic event, and the three of us sat outside of this event, sat up against the door, pressed our ears to the door, and that's how we listened to these, again, supposed academics, supposed professors, call for the destruction of Israel's existence. So this isn't just happening on the student level. I would also argue that it's happening from the top down. I've seen administrators show support for the tent encampments, for the rallies. I've seen administrators attend events with major anti-Semites. Linda Sarsour came to Yale a couple months ago. There were a lot of administrators there. She's a big fan of Louis Farrakhan. Like, this is just not a great structure to have to protect Jewish students. So it doesn't surprise me that they're not protecting me, because the professors don't want students to be protected, and I don't think the administrators want us to be protected either, and they definitely don't want to bother their professors. So that's another sort of example of how I think this has escalated so much on Yale's campus and on every other campus. We've seen administrations, and administrators have told me this directly when I asked, say, the reason we don't stop these students from breaking policy, and the reason we don't cut in now and say, no, you're not allowed to do this. No, you can't bar the Jewish student from the event. No, you can't hang the Palestinian flag off of, a building that you're not supposed to vandalize. No, you can't chalk love for Gaza or Intifada revolution all over campus. The reason they haven't said no is because they're actually afraid of the mob. They've told me, university administrators have said, Sahar, we don't want to escalate with these people. We don't want to escalate with them, so we don't want to argue with them. We don't want to stop them because that'll escalate things. And so what happens instead? The students realize, okay, I was allowed to do this. Let me escalate. I was allowed to do this. Let me escalate. And this culminated in multi-day tent encampments at Yale, at Harvard, at Columbia, and I'm in touch with the Jewish students at these other schools. I promise you, we're all in touch with each other. It's very consistent. So you have this encampment, you have students living in tents for a couple of days and again, playing fetch and making origami and also painting fairly genocidal posters, not letting Jewish students into the encampment and doing rallies every day at these encampments. So a couple weeks ago on a Saturday night, I decided to show up to one of these rallies because I was kind of curious and I wanted to get pictures, videos, whatever. So I go with my Hasidic friend. This is mistake number one. Don't show up to the rally with a friend who's wearing a black hat and tzitzis. So we did that, and what happens as soon as we arrive? My friend and I get blockaded by a line of students with their arms linked, and they follow you everywhere you go. They won't let you move. So I'm at this rally. It's me and it's Nell. This is my friend of mine. We are being followed by this masked mob, some of whom I recognize from class, which makes it even weirder. It's what are you doing, buddy? We just took history together, and now you're just standing in front of me and not making eye contact, not looking at me. These people tend to act very odd because I think they don't know what to do with you. And so I'm trying to move around. I try to get away from them. I really can't. They're following me everywhere I go. At one point, one of them takes a boombox and accosts my friend with it and starts playing profane rap music about Israel that I just will not say out loud in a shul. But it is a really funny video online if anybody wants to see profane rap music about Israel and a Hasidic kid after Shabbat. My friend and I get separated. I'm still being followed by this sort of crowd, except now there's different bodyguards assigned to me and him. Maybe we can call them that. I have a couple of friends that are also just, at the rally. They want to see what's going on. And I'm walking with this crowd of 5 people, and I turn around to my friends guys, check this out. I have a posse, and they won't leave me alone. And this culminates in not only these people that are following me around, they're blocking my way, whatever, but also the other 500 students at this Intifada type rally encircling me, and they are kind of running around, dancing in a line. They're dancing the Palestinian hora. I'm not kidding. They're in a big circle, and their arms are linked, and they're singing and dancing, and they're around you. And as they're encircling me, they're also taunting me. And eventually, this is just bound to happen, right? Somebody takes his Palestinian flag, waves it in my face, and then rams it in my eye. So at first, I ow, he stabbed me in the eye. my quote from this video that you could also all see if you so choose. And then I try to run after him, but actually this mob of people that had been assigned to like bodyguard me, my intifada posse, protects him. So they run in front of me to prevent me from finding the guy that assaulted me. So first, right, the first method is that they corner you by following you in a line, and then suddenly you're pressed in between a line of people following you, and then a circle of people running around you. And then they encourage a bunch of other people to taunt you by making you very obvious, right? Because it's so obvious, like 3 to 5 protest organizers in like specific protest organizer garb, bodyguarding one person. What does that mean about the person who's being bodyguarded? It means that they're the enemy. So then the other 500 protesters are motivated to, harass you. 500 people that are like very hostile towards you. Someone is bound to assault you. I couldn't run after him, couldn't find out who he was, so I went to the cops. Again, this is where the administrative issue comes in. The cops tell me, we can't really shut down this rally because our orders come from administrators who aren't even here, and there's only 7 of us to 500 people. So even though it's gotten violent, we can't shut it down. We can call you an ambulance. Okay, thanks. So I get in the ambulance, the paramedics are like, yeah, you should probably go to the hospital. Obviously, thank God, I'm okay. But this is all to say that students on college campuses are culminating an environment of violence. It's not that there's a couple of like rogue people doing crazy things. No. Student leaders at the rallies make you identifiable. They make you obvious. They make you the enemy when you show up by blockading you, by taunting you, by harassing you, by yelling these crazy things. I mean, il Maya, Filistina Arabaya, from water to water, Palestine is Arab, is a pretty wild thing to shout on a college campus. And in addition to that, when you play out those beliefs in real life, by blockading Jewish students upon arrival, by protecting people that assault Jewish students, by letting them kind of, scatter and run away. My assailant fled, and, he was, of course, masked in a keffiyeh. This is how you make everybody immune and everybody anonymous, right? Everybody's masked, no one knows who anyone is, and therefore anyone can do anything. And they know that there won't be accountability from the university. Recently, there's been a little, because the encampments are getting a bit too much, right? Like, maybe it was not a good idea to let students create a campus turf war by setting up, dozens of tents in major quads, not letting Jewish kids get to the library. But really, this is the escalation that they've been asking for. And I've told administrators this, but they kind of seem to not listen. So what I'll say is that the bad stories that you might be hearing third-hand or second-hand or first-hand on college campuses, they're probably true. That Jewish kid that you heard through the grapevine, maybe got pushed over or punched or whatever at a rally. I know that kid. I am that kid. There's a lot of those kids. It's true. And not only is it true, it's happening at the hands of people that are supposed to be in charge, that are supposed to believe in civility, in discourse, and dialogue. So where do we find solace from this? I will say that I've found Jewish life on campus to be a really good place to get away from this. And that's something I'm really grateful for. So maybe it's time that the Jewish donors, this is kind of my idea, right? Maybe they don't need to be giving their money to Yale. Maybe they should be giving it to the campus Chabad house, where I went to eat my meals for the week where I was assaulted because I didn't want to walk around on campus because my peers know who I am and they really don't like me, at least the non-Jewish ones. But I think it should be comforting to know that on every campus, nobody is alone, right? That we Jewish students are in touch with each other, that we're supportive of each other. I've spoken to a ton of them. They feel represented. I feel represented by them. They feel represented by me. If maybe you saw this letter that came out at Columbia University, it was exceptional. It had 500 signatories of students, Jewish students, saying we're done. This is disgusting. I think the University of Florida is going to start offering free rides to like Jews. There's a bright future ahead, and I'll reiterate that we shouldn't take these people too seriously, but we should find a way to shut them down. So I'm really honored to be here. I'm gonna wrap this up, but yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I hope this doesn't freak anybody out too much. I personally think the future is bright. It's a moment of darkness, and that's when our responsibility comes to kind of bring in better things. Yeah, we. Questions? I think 5 minutes of questions. 5 minutes of questions is fine. If someone has.
Yeah, someone's raising their hand.
Okay, go ahead. I can repeat the question. So, are you asking if they were students or outside agitators? To what extent? It's a good question. So here's the method from the anti-Israel crowd. The method is to bring in agitators, but it's dominated by students. And then the reason you bring in outside agitators is so that when somebody gets assaulted, you can say, it was an outside agitator and we really didn't invite them, which is sort of what they did to me and sort of what they do every time this kind of escalation happens. So they're there, and they might be doing the dirty work of assaulting people, but they don't need to, because you can just wear a mask and then get called an outside agitator. Like, no one's identity here is real. Everything is very, like, flowy. Like, another good example is, like, I was in the middle of this rally, and there's a big Jews for Ceasefire poster, and I know the Jewish community at Yale. It's small. So I look at the people holding this banner. It's like a line of people, a lot of lines, and, like, none of them are, like, I don't recognize a single one. Like, come on, guys. Like, do better. At least put a yarmulke on someone. This is to say, like, everyone's identity is just being, like, you know, thrown out left and right so that they could pretend what's convenient for them. A couple of outside agitators, a lot of students. A ton. I recognize them from class. So, yeah. The question is whether campus Jewish organizations such as Chabad and Hillel can go to universities. And so this is a good example, go to the administration. This is a good example of where I can't speak to every college campus because the administrative structures vary. So for instance, at Yale, the Hillel is effectively an administrative branch of the university. And so that actually kind of limits what they can do in some ways, right? Like, they're not exactly issuing statements calling the university a failure or calling on the university to take hard action, but it extends what they can do in other ways. So the university will maybe give the Hillel a lot of funding for things that are, like, uncontroversially Jewish, like the kosher dining hall. Chabad at Yale is not affiliated with the university and can therefore say, no, we're taking a hard stance on this. No, there will be no anti-Israel clubs organizing themselves at the Chabad house. Yes, the administration failed, like, you let a student get assaulted. But this is very much my individual experience. One more question, maybe? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, it's a good question. So I learned a word last weekend at Brown. I was visiting my brother. MHP is an acronym for Most Hated Person, in contrast to MVP. So because I'm MHP at Yale, I don't know that I can speak for all Jewish students, but I can at least tell you that I get glares and, like, some very mean social media posts that are popular among students. So, like, we have an anonymous social media forum. I would estimate that a third of the undergraduate student body has liked one or the other derogatory post about me, but no one really has the guts to come up to you. Not yet, at least. Yeah, go ahead, and then I should. Thank you. So when I come back, God willing, they will not have organized, but rather have gotten quieter, and I can go back to like doing what I like to do and spend most of my time on campus, which is running challah bakes. So I think they'll quiet down a bit with God's help. Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Sahar. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Sahar, I want to thank you for coming and sharing your story so eloquently, and for giving us a good picture of what you're experiencing, and also for expressing hope and positivity. I think it takes a lot of courage and presence and charisma, which you clearly have. And we're honored that you are here this evening. I know that Sahar is going to go for Shabbat dinner with her family, but I just want to thank you again for coming. Thank you all for being here and enlightening our community. We're going to begin our prayer on page 12, Psalm 95. Lechu neranena, ya lai 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 lai, la Adonai, ya lai 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 lai, nariya, ya lai 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 lai. Letzur Yisheinu, Ya lai 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 lai. Let us sing out to God, the maker of all, sure and strong. Let all of creation from mountain to sea hear our song. Lechu neranena, ya lai 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 lai, la Adonai, ya lai 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 lai, nariya, ya lai 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 lai. Letzur Yisheinu, ya lai 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 lai. For all of the wonder and all of God's light, we rejoice. So now let us listen with all of our hearts to hear God's voice. Lechu neranena, ya lai 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 lai, la Adonai, ya lai 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 lai, nariya, ya lai 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 lai. Letzur Yisheinu, ya lai 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 lai.
Let's join together on page 14. Sing to Adonai a new song.
Sing to Adonai, all the earth. Sing to Adonai, bless God's name. Proclaim God's victory day after day. Tell of God's glory among the nations, God's wondrous deeds among all peoples. For Adonai is great and much acclaimed. God is held in awe by all divine beings. All the gods of the peoples are mere idols, but Adonai made the heavens. Glory and majesty are before God. Strength and splendor are in God's temple.
Let the heavens rejoice and the earth exult. Let the sea and with all in it thunder. The fields and everything in them exult. Then shall all the trees of the forest shout for joy at the presence of Adonai. For God is coming. For God is coming to rule the earth. God will rule the world justly and all its peoples in faithfulness. We're on page 20 for Lecha Dodi.
Lecha lecha dodi, likra likrat kala, pene pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likra likrat kala, pene pene Shabbat nekabela la la la. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likra likrat kala, Pene pene Shabbat nekabela. Verse 1. Shamor v'zachor bedibur echad. Hishmi'anu el hamyuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad. L'shem ultiferet v'liti la 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 la. Lecha dodi likra kala. Pene pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likra likrat kala, pene pene Shabbat nekabela. Verse 2. Likrat Shabbat, lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor haberacha, merosh mikedem nesucha. Sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila la 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 la. Lecha dodi, likra kala, pene pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likra likra kala, pene pene Shabbat nekabela. Verse 5. Hitoreri, hitoreri, kiva orech kumi ori, uri uri, shir daberi. Kevod Adonai alaich nigla la 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 la. Lecha dodi, likra kala, pene pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likra likrat kala, pene pene Shabbat nekabela. If it is your custom to rise to greet Shabbat, please do so now. Verse 9. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam besimcha uvetzola, toch emunei am segula, boi chala, boi chala. Lecha dodi, likrat kala, pene pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likra likra kala, pene pene Shabbat nekabela la la la. Lecha dodi, likra kala, pene pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likra likra kala, pene pene Shabbat nekabela. Page 28. Please rise. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Le'olam Va'ed. Yalla lai lai lai. 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 Page 30 together. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim b'chokhma poteach she'arim uvitvuna meshane itim umachalif et hazmanim umesader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono borei yom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or uma'avir yom umevi layla umavdil bein yom uvein layla Adonai tzvaot shemo el chai v'kayam Tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai hama'ariv aravim. Page 32. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu B'shochbeinu uvkumeinu Nasiach bechukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגה יומם ולילה יומם ולילה ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. Please be seated. Page 36. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם emet.
At the top of page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before we ever stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there's no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. On the next page.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef ele, nora tehilot osef ele. Malchutecha ra'u vanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, ze Elianu ve'amru, ze Elianu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la.
At the top of 43. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, vehamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, vehamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Ufros aleinu, sukat shlomecha. Ufros aleinu, sukat shlomecha. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, vehamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Page 44. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. Page 46, please rise. Adonai sefatai tivtach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Velohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Velohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, Umevi geula livnei v'neihem, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל אתה, רב להושיע, מוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ברופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני Ha'el HaKadosh. We continue silently.
Page 62.
Yehu leratzon imrefi vegyon libi. Yehu leratzon imrefi vegyon libi lefanecha. Yehu leratzon imrefi vegyon libi. Yehu leratzon imrefi vegyon libi lefanecha. Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri v'goali, Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri v'goali. Go inside your heart, just be. Go inside your heart and see what it wants, what it needs, what it yearns when you breathe. Go inside your heart and see. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be kind, be true. May they be acceptable to you, O my rock and my redeemer. In her talk a little while ago, Sahar mentioned that the students of Columbia University, the Jewish students of Columbia University, yes, we are, thank you. So before I talk about the Jewish students of Columbia University, we will pray for loved ones, friends, and family members who are ill and in need of healing and peace. If you're praying for someone this evening and you'd like to share their name, I invite you to do so now. Thank you, Howard. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Daisy. Thanks, Jerry. Thank you, Arlene. Thank you. Thanks, Beth. Thank you, Naeem. Thank you. Thanks, Andrew. Thank you, Elaine. Thank you, John. Thank you, Gilda. Thank you, Mark. Thanks, Nicole. Thank you, Suzanne. May God be with all of them and bring them a renewal of body and spirit. Page 253. Mi shebeirach avotenu mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu mikor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. So this letter by the students of Columbia, the Jewish students of Columbia, an open letter that was published this week. I'd like to read it in case you haven't yet seen it. It is profound and important, as Sahar mentioned. And so as prelude to our prayer for the people and the state of Israel and the hostages, I would like to read these words signed by more than 500 Jewish students from Columbia University. It's entitled, In Our Name, a message from Jewish students at Columbia University. To the Columbia community, over the past 6 months, many have spoken in our name. Some are well-meaning alumni or non-affiliates who show up to wave the Israeli flag outside Columbia's gates. Some are politicians looking to use our experiences to foment America's culture war. Most notably, some are our Jewish peers who tokenize themselves by claiming to represent, quote, real Jewish values and attempt to delegitimize our lived experiences of anti-Semitism. We are here writing to you as Jewish students at Columbia University who are connected to our community and deeply engaged with our culture and history. We would like to speak in our name. Many of us sit next to you in class. We are your lab partners, your study buddies, your peers, and your friends. We partake in the same student government, clubs, Greek life, volunteer organizations, and sports teams as you. Most of us did not choose to be political activists. We do not bang on drums and chant catchy slogans. We are average students, just trying to make it through finals, much like the rest of you. Those who demonize us under the cloak of anti-Zionism forced us into our activism and forced us to publicly defend our Jewish identities. We proudly believe in the Jewish people's right to self-determination in our historic homeland as a fundamental tenet of our Jewish identity. Contrary to what many have tried to sell you, no, Judaism cannot be separated from Israel. Zionism is, simply put, the manifestation of that belief. Our religious texts are replete with references to Israel, Zion, and Jerusalem. The land of Israel is filled with archaeological remnants of a Jewish presence spanning centuries. Yet despite generations of living in exile and diaspora across the globe, the Jewish people never ceased dreaming of returning to our homeland, Judea, the very place from which we derive our name, Jews. Indeed, just a couple days ago, we all closed our Passover Seders with the proclamation, next year in Jerusalem. Many of us are not religiously observant, yet Zionism remains a pillar of our Jewish identities. We have been kicked out of Russia, Libya, Ethiopia, Yemen, Afghanistan, Poland, Egypt, Algeria, Germany, Iran, and the list goes on. We connect to Israel not only as our ancestral homeland, but as the only place in the modern world where Jews can safely take ownership of their own destiny. Our experiences at Columbia in the last 6 months are a poignant reminder of just that. We were raised on stories from our grandparents of concentration camps, gas chambers, and ethnic cleansing. The essence of Hitler's anti-Semitism was the very fact that we were not European enough. That as Jews, we were threats to the superior Aryan race. This ideology ultimately left 6 million of our own in ashes. The evil irony of today's anti-Semitism is a twisted reversal of our Holocaust legacy. Protesters on campus have dehumanized us, imposing upon us the characterization of the, quote, white colonizer. We have been told that we are, quote, the oppressors of all brown people, and that, quote, the Holocaust wasn't special. Students at Columbia have chanted, quote, we don't want no Zionists here, alongside, quote, death to the Zionist state, and, quote, go back to Poland, where our relatives lie in mass graves. This sick distortion illuminates the nature of anti-Semitism. In every generation, the Jewish people are blamed and scapegoated as responsible for the societal evil of the time. In Iran and in the Arab world, we were ethnically cleansed for our presumed ties to the, quote, Zionist entity. In Russia, we endured state-sponsored violence and were ultimately massacred for being capitalists. In Europe, we were the victims of genocide because we were communists and not European enough. And today, we face the accusation of being too European, painted as society's worst evils, colonizers and oppressors. We are targeted for our belief that Israel, our ancestral religious homeland, has a right to exist. We are targeted by those who misuse the word Zionist as a sanitized slur for Jew, synonymous with racist, oppressive, or genocidal. We know all too well that anti-Semitism is shape-shifting. We are proud of Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East. Israel is home to millions of Mizrahi Jews, Ashkenazi Jews, and Ethiopian Jews, as well as millions of Arab Israelis, over 1 million Muslims, and hundreds of thousands of Christians and Druze. Israel is nothing short of a miracle for the Jewish people and for the Middle East more broadly. Our love for Israel does not necessitate blind political conformity. It's quite the opposite. For many of us, it is our deep love for and commitment to Israel that pushes us to object when its government acts in ways we find problematic. Israeli political disagreement is an inherently Zionist activity. Look no further than the protests against Netanyahu's judicial reforms from New York to Tel Aviv to understand what it means to fight for the Israel we imagine. All it takes are a couple of coffee chats with us to realize that our visions for Israel differ dramatically from one another. Yet we all come from a place of love and an aspiration for a better future for Israelis and Palestinians alike. If the last 6 months on campus have taught us anything, it is that a large and vocal population of the Columbia community does not understand the meaning of Zionism, and consequently does not understand the essence of the Jewish people. Yet despite the fact that we have been calling out the anti-Semitism we've been experiencing for months, our concerns have been brushed off and invalidated. So here we are to remind you. We sounded the alarm on October 12th when many protested against Israel while our friends' and families' dead bodies were still warm. We recoiled when people screamed, "Resist by any means necessary," telling us we are all inbred and that we have no culture. We shuddered when an activist held up a sign telling Jewish students they were Hamas's next targets. And we shook our heads in disbelief when side chat users told us we were lying. We ultimately were not surprised when a leader of the CUAD encampment said publicly and proudly that, quote, Zionists don't deserve to live, and that we're lucky that they are, quote, not just going out and murdering Zionists. We felt helpless when we watched students and faculty physically block Jewish students from entering parts of the campus we share, or even when they turned their faces away in silence. This silence is familiar. We will never forget. One thing is for sure, we will not stop standing up for ourselves. We are proud to be Jews, and we are proud to be Zionists. We came to Columbia because we wanted to expand our minds and engage in complex conversations. While campus may be riddled with hateful rhetoric and simplistic binaries now, it is never too late to start repairing the fractures and begin developing meaningful relationships across political and religious divides. Our tradition tells us, love peace and pursue peace. We hope you will join us in earnestly pursuing peace, truth, and empathy. Together, we can repair our campus. Signed, the Jewish students of Columbia. I invite you now to turn to page 259 and join with me in praying for the people and the state of Israel. Avinu, Avinu, Shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'goalo. Avinu, Avinu, Shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'goalo. Barech, barech, et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Smichat Geulatenu, Hagen Aleha Be'evrat Chasdecha, Ufros Aleha Sukat Shlomecha. Avinu, Avinu, Sheba Shamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'goalo. Avinu, Avinu, Sheba Shamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'goalo. Page 278, please rise. And join me for the counting of the Omer, the days connecting the Exodus to Sinai. I am ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Omer. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat haomer. Today is the 18th day, which is 2 weeks and 4 days of the Omer. Page 282. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kimishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'goralenu kechol hamonam, Va'anachnu korim ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. We've come to the time where we think of those who are no longer physically with us but are always in our hearts. This week we are thinking of Robert Bob Cummins, who's passed away in the last 30 days, and the yahrzeit of Ann Cooper Smith, Ida Ellman, Pauline Gross, Harris H. Harnick, Isaac Horowitz, Rebecca Horowitz, Carol Jacobs, Miriam Jaffe, Fanny Clear, Nathan Crown, Irving Cursius, Gret Lebach, Michael Levine, Carmine Marrow, Bert Samuel Morgowski, Sarah Penner, Lou Rosenblum, Elizabeth Ann Schwab, Jocelyn Shore, Ida E. Siegel, Barbara F. Solomkin, Bernard Wexler, Brian Wheeler, Lorraine Woolen, Ada Woolner, and Paul Frederick Woolner. If you're thinking of someone whose name was not said, please feel free to share their name as my hand goes around the room. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We think of all those names said out loud, all those in our hearts, and all those around the world. We rise, if it is your custom, on page 294.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divrach cherutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ulalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei dekudesha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbichata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru Amen.
May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and all of Israel. And we say together, Amen.
Please be seated. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
I'm glad you're all here this evening. It's good to see you. And I want to say thank you again to our speaker, Sahar Tartak, who spoke beautifully and informatively this evening. And I'm glad we were all here to bear witness to her story. I also want to say thank you to our wonderful usher, Phil Perlman. And thank you to the Margaloff family for baking the challah. Thank you to Sally Wolf for lighting our Shabbat candles this evening. And thank you to our oneg bakers, Linda Diamond, Cheryl Silverstein, Nicole Ledberry, Sharon Freeman, and Ellen Safian. We'll get to taste their treats shortly when we go to the oneg. There are a lot of things happening over the next week here at Temple Beth-El, and so I just want to announce them. So tomorrow morning at our Shabbat morning Torah study at 9:15, our fellow congregant David Sutton will be our guest teacher. David is a collector of ancient Jewish coins, and he's going to be teaching about the coins from his collection and talking about their connection to the history of the land of Israel and Jewish history. It will be very interesting. That's tomorrow at 9:15, followed by the bat mitzvah service of Sasha Millman. And then on Sunday evening, so after Mother's Day celebrations, hopefully are complete, we are going to have a service for Yom HaZikaron. That's Israel's Memorial Day. That'll be Sunday at 7 p.m. And we'll be doing that together with the Gachelet Israeli school that shares our space. And I hope you can come. This is especially an important Yom HaZikaron this year, of course, because we're remembering all of the Israelis who have died in protection of the state of Israel. On Monday evening at 7 p.m., we have a congregational forum where our visioning team will be presenting to us about the work that they have been doing, all that they have learned, and invite questions from the community and your input. This is a really important meeting for our community. It will be in person only. It's not on Zoom. So I invite you to please come in person here in the chapel for the meeting at 7. And then on Friday next Friday, we have another guest speaker. It will be Dr. Ken Bossert, the superintendent of Great Neck Public Schools. So that will be very interesting as well. So
followed by an Israeli oneg.
Yeah, followed by an Israeli oneg with Israeli music because it's Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel's Independence Day. So there's a lot happening this week. And with that, I think we're going to go ahead and close with Kiddush and Motzi. So I invite you to please rise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu Zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh zecher litziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'charta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim V'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat l'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon. And as you head out, quickly, 2 things I forgot to announce. I was looking for the sheep.
Oh, here.
Yeah, it's okay. I remember. The following on Sunday, next Sunday, we're celebrating Gary Slobin, our outgoing president. On Sunday, May 19th, there's a special event to honor him. And then on May 22nd, we have an event of 2 speakers from Israel coming to talk. So there's so many things that I forgot to tell you. But anyway.
If there's kids under the age of 18, we're having a family art night next weekend as well on Saturday evening, the 18th.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Busy month.